This is Steve Hoy with John Broughton on Retrospectives 3SER Casey Radio.
Rain Dance.
Oh yes, Rain Dance, the hit that almost was.
That almost was.
Took me to the top of the bottom of the charts. That's 3 years old now, that single, so it's drifting off into my ancient history. But it was that was the first single I had for A&M, which was my baptism of fire with major labels.
Well, the early deal you had was with J. Camilleri's label, wasn't it? The Spirit label.
That was. I'm talking real ancient history now.
Yeah. Back
when my hair was all the one colour, all its original colour, not the outgrowth of age. I met Joe 10 years ago, and I played him some songs, and he liked them and sort of encouraged me to continue writing. And when he was getting his label together, Spirit Records, in 1984, I think he put it together. His idea was to sign an unknown. That was part of the charter that Virgin Records gave him. If you're going to do this thing with this little label that you've got, find someone unknown and we'll do an album with them. So I was certainly unknown, and we did that album at the end of 1984, and it was released early 85. I did that with the guys from Daddy Cool. They lead independent lives, but they're best known, like Ross Hannafin, Gary Young, and Wayne Duncan. And Joe produced it. We did it very quickly. It was a lot of fun, and that kind of introduced me to the Melbourne, or a certain section of the Melbourne music community, which I've worked with off and on since, I guess. A fun thing to do, and I guess that record got a lot of good reviews across the country. I think probably now as much for Joe's input and enthusiasm as it was for my actual part of the record. I listen to that record now, and it's like this great band with this karaoke singer or something. Not quite as drunk as a karaoke singer, but certainly the naivety of a karaoke singer. I thought the songs were okay though.
And a terrific cover.
Yeah, covers, as we've seen, yes. Collector's note, there are 2 covers to the Fabulous Anticipation album, both of them horrid.
But the songs are great, and we'll play one from it now, back from his Anticipation album before. Was that your regular band at that stage, or it was just put together for that album?
I was living in Canberra when that was recorded.
Mm-hmm.
Joe put that band together. I mean, it was, as I said before, the Daddy Cool lineup of Gary, Wayne and Ross Hannaford. And I didn't have a band. I moved to Melbourne, and the band I put together then was actually one of Paul Kelly's old bands, one of the Dots, the Dots that recorded Manila. It was Tim Brosnan, Tony Thornton, and Al Brooker. We rehearsed a lot. We never got to do a gig, but that was the first band I had in Melbourne, and it's been like a strange family tree since then.
Can you tell us?
Well, I started playing in Newcastle, that's where I grew up, and I started writing songs. Well, actually, the first thing I did as far as any kind of public recognition, I guess, was publishing poetry, believe it or not. When I was at unis, I showed some poetry to one of my lecturers in the English department, and he was very enthusiastic about it, and put me in touch with some other writers, and this little anthology came out, and we're talking... really small uni kind of publication, but that sort of was the first kind of inkling that I might want to do something other than what everyone else in Newcastle ever done, which was either you went to the Steelworks or you became a teacher. It seemed to be I was on a teacher's scholarship at the time, and so I always wanted to play music. I mean, I just want to play guitar and write, and I figured, I wasn't such a great singer and I wasn't such a great guitarist, and I'm probably not such a great writer, but I thought it was an okay little package if you put it all together. And other people had thought so as well, so I figured, well, I'll pursue that for better or worse, the joy you get from playing is always measured against the remuneration you might not receive. I moved to Sydney at the beginning of the 80s and just played around like cafes and wine bars that were around at the real tail end of what used to be a fairly healthy acoustic scene in Sydney. And it was the whole inner city scene of Darlinghurst at that time, you know, the kind of the post-punk thing. So playing acoustic stuff wasn't really kosher, I guess, but I did it anyway, and I met a lot of players up there, and I started writing songs. Some of the songs on that Anticipation album were written in Sydney. I mean, the song Anticipation was. Actually, it might have been the only one. I think the other ones were written in Canberra. But yeah, that's how I guess.
Probably not a whole heap.
Canberra's a good place to work to try and get things happening, I think. I mean, at the time I was there, which was the mid-'80s, there was quite a healthy music scene. I mean, it's funny, you think of this real dour, dead place where it's just public servants and politicians and chill factors, you know. Actually, there was a healthy theatre scene and literary scene, and like any town has, if you scratch the surface. And being the national capital, of course, and it's close to the ANU, that sort of thing is subsidised to a degree. So there was, you know, there were reggae bands. For strange reason, there was like a real ska scene in Melbourne. In Canberra in 82, 83. Sort of dwindled out, I guess, around 84. But when like the Falling Joys had started around that time, they used to play the same. I used to do an acoustic residency at this little cafe in Canberra early, I think, and then the Falling Joys would play later. And I think who else? The Gadflies. Those guys were around. They were doing their stuff then. They tried their stuff in Canberra. The Moriarty brothers. And yeah, there was this little scene that actually moved up to Sydney from like Canberra sort of indie scene. And I don't know what remains. There was also a lot of real cover band sort of stuff. You know, the sort of, you know, the meat and potatoes side of going out and doing cabaret stuff, which I played in a band in Canberra that did that. I'd never played in a cover band that did actual top 40 songs. You know, we'd go out. These people had a studio. They'd do jingles and stuff, and we'd go out and we'd listen to. I can't remember a lot of the stuff we did, but I'd come in with a few songs I'd like to do, and they'd do them, and then I just have to play guitar, and it was a great learning thing. I mean, I just kind of learned about playing with other people, not trying to push your own thing all the time. Plus, it probably made me more money than I'd made from music at the time either. But yeah, I mean, I think the difficulty with any regional area is that to be taken seriously, the people who are working in the regional areas have to move to either Sydney or Melbourne. That's really, that's the reality, unfortunately, for people living there. And so I decided, when Anticipation came out and was received so well critically, I thought, well, why not move to Melbourne? You know, I'd lived in Sydney, and I thought to move to Melbourne was the best idea, and that's what happened. I think the Fountain Gate area is getting to, maybe it's 150 shops, making my guitar nervous. All right. Song about Newcastle. What I left behind: surf, sun, steel and dirt, the nighttime shunting near the Gates Hotel, the grimy day's talk of beer and work. Yeah, the rattle of the railroad, rattling round and round, the bricks and steel, the noise you have to run yourself into the ground. Where I come from, here it's as it was, and though the money is tighter, business is business, let's not talk about loss. Where I come from, where I come from, where I come from. Now these ancient relatives, spirit worlds blink across our little histories, the romances, the ragged endings, the jungle of tired telephone memories, where I come from. Yeah, it's as it was, though the money is tighter. And business, business, let's not talk about loss. Where I come from, where I come from, where I come from, where I come from. You take these things, you take them so far. I didn't see the world in a brand new car. The old hometown, no sentimental heart. You do what you do, you maybe have to restart. Yeah, these old school friends now married or divorced. There's trouble with the faces, no hope with the names. This absence makes that departure stronger, 'cause that absent party is always to blame. Where I come from, where I come from, where I come from, where I come from, where I come from. Yes, it's surf and sun and steel and dirt. The old school friends now married or divorced. Where I come from, where I come from, where I come from.
Musical influences. Just off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head? Well, there's so many. I mean, that's never ending. Even when you think you've found your own little area you work in, you know. I first really got inspired, I suppose, with Bob Dylan's music, and simultaneously, when I go back, I mean, I started playing piano when I was about 7. I started taking lessons, and I just learned the usual little things and did a few exams, and then just concentrated on learning pop songs, I guess, and all sorts of things came through there. But I really liked blues, and I didn't know. I heard Muddy Waters when I was 14, I think, and that it was like this sound that you knew was there, but you hadn't really. Little things had come through over the years, and you happened to be on a program on the ABC called This Day Tonight, and they said they were crossing to this to the Horton Pavilion, to this legendary blues performer, and I'd vaguely heard of Muddy Waters, you know, and he was there, and it was just astonishing. I just remember it. I got this little black and white TV sort of etched in my head with Muddy Waters in it, and it was just this really tough sound, and I really liked that, and that kind of reminded me of the Chuck Berry stuff I'd heard. I just liked that sort of, which was bastardised by, you know, bands like Status Quo, and that whole boogie sort of thing, where it was just, you know, flared jeans and dandruff, you know, and it was like, that was what was happening then. But when you heard it done, like, you know, when you heard Chuck Berry doing it, it wasn't dumb. It was really exciting, and it was dirty, and it was fun, and like hearing Muddy Waters doing that kind of thing, but slightly different. You know, that real earthy, guttural sort of thing. That was really exciting. And so that they were the things that stuck there. But it was a country sort of thing as well, I suppose. I mean, you just hear stuff and you think, side of a more song-based thing, which I suppose those other bands had. But I mean, there's just so many. I mean, there's so many songwriters, so many people working. It's hard to remember. I mean, I went through a sort of, actually bought Cure records and things like that when I was at the final stage at uni. Very confused, I must have been. John Cooper Clarke. I really like John Cooper Clarke. I still like John Cooper Clarke from that period. I don't think he's made another record since about 1982, and he was fantastic. He just had this different thing with that rapid fire poetry, which reminded me of Chuck Berry. The way Chuck Berry just blurted out this image after image, and the way Dylan picked up on that with things like Subterranean Homesick Blues and Maggie's Farm. Those. His life was all tangled, no sense and no hope. Just one day like another, just money for old rope. He'd thought about moving back home and see how things really were, see how much had changed, and see if he could find her smile complete, his heart secure like rain in a dry land. He'd walk streets hoping to find her there, hoping it didn't look so planned. It was something, but it was something long gone. Kept believing things were meant to be as the bad luck dogged his days. In that government job where he drank his lunch and his debts ate up his pay. But he remembered climbing a hill out to the back of a cliff, watch the sea rise and the waves collapse, feeling his whole body lift. And he thought it through over and again, preparing each word in his mind, believing they'd get together again and get it right this time. And it was something, but it was something long gone. And it was something, but it was something long gone. Someone told him honestly not to bother anymore, that so much past is so much gone that it's something different from before. But the tides rise and the droughts break and the burning love still smokes, bringing the past and its scars and its tricks and its jokes. Oh, this heat wave drips greasy on this February night. My best friend is undressing his best friend's wife. America, in the ultra commercial area of things, like whether it be film or music, there are little kind of training schools that tell you how to respond in interviews, and I couldn't think of anything worse. And you hear people doing that, and of course, eventually, if you do a run of interviews, all you're doing is telling people about one song. If it's a single, you're going to have to repeat yourself, and eventually it's like, did I already say that to this person, or did I say it to the other person, or who are you? You sound so much like the person I spoke to before. Are you the same person? It was a very deep voice, and hi, you're on such and such station. That's just how it goes. I mean, with the print media, you tend to find that you didn't say anything, and I remember I did one where this guy, he spoke to me for hours, it seemed. We must have talked for nearly an hour, and he obviously hadn't got a story, and he asked me what I thought about the music business, and I said, well, it's a bit of a game, really, or it's a bit stupid or something like that, and that became the headline. It was like, oh, geez. I sat there for, we talked, like I said, for 40 minutes about music, about all sorts of things, and he was just waiting for it, he was just waiting for his headline. He was just waiting for his bit that was going to jar the Sunday morning readers into some kind of response.
And you gave...
You don't seem to take yourself too seriously.
Oh, on the exterior.
That's a conscious thing?
I mean, I take what I do seriously, and one is always trying to improve oneself. But I don't think the artistic temperament or that sort of stuff should be taken. If you think that that's what you do, I don't think you should take it lock, stock, and barrel. You should take the whole thing as so and so did that, so therefore I should do that because that's what an artist or so and so does. I mean, I don't. The tortured syndrome is a load of crap as far as I'm concerned. You torture yourself for lots of stuff. There's enough torture in the world at the moment. I don't think someone like me should be out there saying, what an amazing piece of work I've just played for you, and you should respond to it and bow to me or something. I think that's, I don't know. I mean, you tend to think, well, I tend to think that my work is sort of self-explanatory. It's got a few little nooks and crannies that you can explore, and that's what it is. I mean, it's only rock and roll at the end of the day. It's certainly saved a lot of people's lives in some ways, but certainly not by blood transfusion or anything.
In this evil-hearted place, lies start to make sense. You believe what you need, the rest you just pretend. Some know when it's time to leave. I stayed 'cause I couldn't believe it was slow poison I'd received. I guess I'm not the last one to be deceived. And love's no mystery, love's no mystery. I find it every day, somehow it finds me. And love's no mystery, love's no mystery. Now I could have cried, I did not have the tears. I might have tried, but it weren't so clear. I might have cried, I did not have the tears. Well, now you cry and cry and cry those tears. Love's no mystery, it's always around. Sometimes it comes so fast, it comes without a sound. It's always around, it's always around, it's always around, always around. Love's no mystery, love's no mystery. I find it every day, somehow it finds me. And love's no mystery, love's no mystery. I find it every day. Somehow it finds me. It's always around. It comes without a sound. It's always around. It's always around. Love's no mystery. Love's no mystery. Love's no mystery. Love's no mystery.
Done.
Thank you.
Nice indeed. I saw you last year supporting Warren's Evon, and you were telling us before he'd taken a little bit of interest in your work.
Yeah, I sent him a copy of Life Next Door just before that tour, and didn't hear anything back. And there was an interesting story about the tour, which I won't go into. It's a bit laboured, flattering but laboured. And anyway, I ended up doing the shows in Melbourne with Warren, and I consider him a significant influence, I suppose, and I've always liked his work. And anyway, he at the end of the last show at the Universal in Fitzroy, he just sort of came out of the blue and said, "Well, if you're looking for a producer, please let me know." And I was like, "Yep, I certainly
I'll remember that."
I'll certainly, yeah. So we sent him some tapes recently of some new stuff. So. Just waiting to hear what he's up to. I read he's just done the music for the remake of 77 Sunset Strip. They've remade that in the States, so Warren's got the soundtrack to that, which is good. I'm glad he's making money. He's just got a new album out as well. It's a live album of the tour from last year.
From the one here?
Well, it was a world tour, so there may be tracks that were recorded here. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet.
Who are some of the people you admire in the Australian industry?
Well, there's like Don Walker is someone I admire a lot as a writer. Probably more than anyone else, really. He sort of helped me out as well, and it's not just because of that I admire him, obviously, but he writes a very Australian lyric without being really self-conscious about it. Without being a professional Australian, like so many of the country acts that are coming through now. It's like this horrible parochial kickback sort of thing where we could, if we're an Australian singer, we have to suddenly be singing about red dust, and I'm not talking about midnight oil there. I'm just like farmers and stuff, and it's like, well, there's a lot more going on, and to incorporate that sort of theme, you can do it a lot more interestingly, I think. But anyway. But other people, I like Tex Perkins and the Cruel Sea. I like them. I like Dave Graney. I think he's very funny. I just glad he's around. It's that whole persona that he's got. It's very amusing. If you see him live, it's quite overwhelming sometimes. Who else? I like Nick Cave I mean, not exclusively, but I like his recent work. The last 2 albums, probably, maybe the last 3. He did a fantastic version of